September 17, 1862, dawned over the rolling fields and orchards of Sharpsburg, Maryland, and, well, the United States was about to experience one of its darkest and bloodiest days, the Battle of Antietam. Known as the bloodiest single day in American military history, this brutal encounter between Union and Confederate forces left nearly 23,000 soldiers dead, wounded, or missing, forever marking the Civil War with its staggering human cost. Yet beyond the staggering numbers lies a story of courage, strategy, missteps, and human endurance that history often, simplifies. The Battle of Antietam was not just a fight between armies, it was a crucible in which leadership, tactics, and the horrors of war collided, reshaping the course of the nation. The stage for Antietam was set by Confederate General Robert E. Lee's audacious Maryland campaign. Lee had led the Army of Northern Virginia north from Virginia into Union territory, hoping to relieve pressure on war-torn Virginia, gain supplies, and perhaps sway European powers to recognize the Confederacy. His campaign was bold but risky, taking his relatively small force deep into Union territory while attempting to outmaneuver larger Federal armies. Lee's tactical brilliance had already been demonstrated in previous engagements, and he sought to capitalize on Union confusion and indecision, striking where the Federals were weakest. The Union Army of the Potomac, under General George B. McClellan, faced the challenge of intercepting Lee's forces while grappling with its own logistical and command difficulties. McClellan was cautious, perhaps overly so, a trait that would really define the day's events. Despite having superior numbers, roughly 87,000 Union soldiers against Lee's 38,000, McClellan moved slowly, wary of overextending his army and overestimating Confederate strength. This hesitation would allow Lee to concentrate his forces at critical points, setting the stage for an intensely bloody confrontation in and around the fields, farms, and sunken roads of Sharpsburg. Antietam was defined by a series of brutal, overlapping engagements across multiple locations, each with its own story of heroism and horror. The battle began in the early morning hours with fierce fighting near the Cornfield, where Union troops under Joseph Hooker clashed with Confederate defenders. In a matter of minutes, the peaceful fields became a maelstrom of musket fire, artillery, and hand-to-hand combat. Soldiers charged, fell, and retreated repeatedly, creating a cycle of carnage that just seemed endless. Leadership and bravery mattered, but sheer luck and timing also determined survival, as men were often caught in deadly crossfires or mowed down in open fields. One of the most infamous areas of the battle was the Sunken Road, which would later be known as Bloody Lane. Here, Union troops assaulted a well-entrenched Confederate position, a natural trench formed by the erosion of a road over time. Confederate defenders poured devastating volleys into advancing Union soldiers, inflicting massive casualties. Yet the Union forces, relentless despite the punishment, eventually broke through the line, creating a scene of, honestly, unimaginable carnage. The Sunken Road became a nightmarish corridor of death, with bodies strewn across the trench and battlefield. Its horrors have been memorialized in countless accounts, but walking through the details of the engagement reveals the sheer scale of human suffering and the intensity of close-quarters combat during the Civil War. The fighting at Antietam was not limited to infantry alone. Artillery played a critical role, shaping the battlefield and amplifying the destruction. Cannons fired with deadly accuracy, targeting massed formations and fortified positions, while cavalry units attempted flanking maneuvers only to be met with withering fire. Both sides demonstrated tactical skill and courage, yet the battle also revealed the limitations of command and communication. Orders were often delayed, misunderstood, or misexecuted, creating confusion that turned organized attacks into chaotic and deadly encounters. These moments of mismanagement underline the reality that even in a technologically and strategically advancing era, human error could dramatically influence outcomes. Amidst the chaos, individual acts of valor stood out, capturing the courage and humanity of soldiers caught in extreme circumstances. Medals of honor would later be awarded for bravery at Antietam, recognizing those who risked their lives to rally troops, rescue comrades, or hold key positions under unbearable fire. Yet these stories, remarkable as they are really only glimpses of the larger tragedy. For every act of heroism, there were countless men who simply fell, their names lost to history but their suffering immortalized in the statistics of bloodshed. By mid-afternoon, after 12 grueling hours of combat, both armies were, well, completely exhausted. Lee's Confederates, though heavily outnumbered, managed to hold much of their line intact, while McClellan's Union forces had made gains but, failed to pursue a decisive breakthrough. The battle ended inconclusively in tactical terms. Lee withdrew across the Potomac River into Virginia, preserving his army, while the Union claimed a strategic victory by halting the Confederate invasion of the North. Yet the cost was staggering, over 23,000 casualties in a single day, which is, honestly, an unimaginable number for a nation just over a century old. The significance of Antietam extends far beyond the battlefield. Politically, the Union's ability to halt Lee's advance provided President Abraham Lincoln with the leverage needed to issue the preliminary Emancipation Proclamation, redefining the purpose of the war and, really, altering the social and political landscape of the nation. By framing the conflict explicitly around the abolition of slavery, Lincoln shifted international perceptions, discouraging European powers, particularly Britain and France, from recognizing the Confederacy. In this way, the human sacrifice at Antietam reverberated far beyond Maryland, influencing both domestic policy and global diplomacy. Antietam also reshaped military thinking in the Civil War. Commanders on both sides recognized the deadly efficiency of entrenched positions, the decisive power of artillery, and the importance of timely communication. The battle revealed the limits of traditional linear tactics in the face of modern weaponry, foreshadowing the increasingly brutal and technologically intensive engagements that would define the rest of the Civil War. Soldiers and officers learned that courage alone was insufficient. Discipline, strategy, and logistical preparation were equally critical to survival and victory. Yet perhaps the most haunting legacy of Antietam is the scale of human suffering. Thousands of bodies were left on the battlefield, and the aftermath was a logistical nightmare for both sides. Field hospitals overflowed with the wounded, many of whom faced death not from bullets but from infection and lack of medical care. The experience forced military leaders and civilian communities alike to confront the brutal realities of war, inspiring changes in medical practice, battlefield triage, and the treatment of wounded soldiers that would have lasting implications for the American military. Antietam reminds us that history is rarely simple. While it is remembered as a turning point in the Civil War, it was also a day of immense tragedy, confusion, and human cost. It challenges the romanticized notions of battle, showing instead the brutal realities of combat, the weight of command, and the delicate balance between strategy, luck, and human endurance. Understanding these hidden dimensions enriches our appreciation of the conflict and honors the experiences of those who lived and died on that fateful September day. So, if you want to uncover more hidden truths, learn about battles that reshaped the world and explore the courage, strategy, and raw humanity behind history's pivotal moments, make sure to hit that like button, leave a comment sharing what shocked you most about Antietam, and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth explorations of history's most astonishing and unforgettable stories. Because the Battle of Antietam isn't just a date in a textbook, it's a story of sacrifice, resilience, and the high stakes of a nation struggling to define its destiny, and its lessons continue to resonate more than 150 years later.